They could both be dropping back in coverage. Either one of them could be coming up into the box. They both could be coming up into the box for all you know. Like, it just, the possibilities schematically are just, ooh, man, they're exciting. If you're a football rube like myself, they're really exciting. So I think and I hope that is the Vikings' same understanding, and that the direction now, the final piece, is that we go out and use our first round draft pick on safety Von Bell from Ohio State University, and that he is a Harrison Smith type hybrid, maybe just a little bit stronger on the free safety than the strong safety if he's got to be a little better at one than the other. But then again, if he's a little better at strong safety, then, free safety is going to take a little less wear and tear off of Harrison Smith's body. So it's all positives. It's all positives. But we need that final piece is the hybrid to truly be a stud alongside of him, like what Seattle's Legion of Boom has in Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, even though they're very, Cam's the strong safety and Earl's the free safety. But the point is a pair of them. We could take that up a whole other notch where they're both hybrids. They're both free and strong safeties. On any given play, you never know who's going to be doing what. Oh, man, make it happen, Zimmer. Or Spielman, technically, is the one that would have to make that happen. But like I said, I feel like the final missing piece to that is that first-round safety. We get the best safety in the draft, Von Bell from Ohio State. And then the beautiful part of re-signing Sendejo then and bringing in Griffin is we can do like we did with Trey Waynes if we need to. We can allow this guy time to learn and sit and play special teams and, practice and do all these other things and then put him in when he is ready. We're not desperate for him to immediately start. So that's the hope. But other activity we had on defense, we re-signed Audi Cole, linebacker. Yeah. But that's just like a 1 year, move it or lose it type of deal. By my understanding, look for him to probably get cut, the final cuts before the start of the regular season. We also signed a couple new linebackers, Travis Lewis, as well as one who might make a little noise, Emmanuel Lamure, I'm not sure how you say it. He is from Cincinnati, converted safety. I very much like him as a weak side outside linebacker in a 4-3 or, a rotational coverage nickel or dime linebacker as well. So I think that's a really good signing, and it didn't break the bank by any means either. Let's see what else we got. Anything else defensively? Not sure what's going on with Terrence Newman yet, if we're bringing back or keeping him. Josh Robinson is out of here. Oh, happy day. It shouldn't have taken this long. If nothing else, Minnesota Vikings fans across the land of 10,000 lakes can rejoice at the fact that Josh Robinson is no longer in our secondary. That is the definition of addition by subtraction. And then let's see, no word yet still on if Greenway will be coming back or not, although I expect him to, but with the amount of linebacker activity, you never know. I also don't know if Brian Robeson, B-Rob, will get released. He needs to be. That would help out the team immensely. He's way overpaid and way underproductive. They re-signed depth at defensive tackle in Kenrick Ellis. That's decent, but again, his name's going to be on the potential cut blocks, especially if we're able to hit up some of the incredible talent in this deep defensive line draft that everybody's talking about. If we can get some of that in rounds 5 through 7, after addressing our primary needs, wide receiver, safety, tight end, offensive line. Offensive line might not even be an issue now come draft day, and I like that. I couldn't stand the idea of using the 23rd pick on an offensive lineman and thinking that was going to help Teddy and the team get better and closer to a Super Bowl the next season. So we're just going to do TJ Clemmings all over again? Expect that to be any different? No. That's an area of the field where we need people who know how to play now. And I also feel that we need one wide receiver who we can say that about too. No offense, Jarius Wright, and no offense, Stephon Diggs. But that's where I would like a Mike Wallace. I think he's that perfect level of veteran, where you can afford him, he can contribute, but he doesn't need to be a superstar, and you're not even really counting on him. You want him to help your other guys develop into superstars. But so that's where the Vikings have been at with free agency re-signings. And that's just the beginning of it. There's still going to be more to come, and I will keep you updated with all of it that I see as I bleed purple and gold, whether I like it or not. But so, like I said, a lot of this, we're wrapping up on the Vikings talk. A lot of this now moving forward, I think, really shapes our draft direction, makes it a lot clearer. In my opinion, our first round pick, there's only 2 possible positions that we will take a player at, and that is wide receiver, where we'll have likely one of the top 3 or top 4 wide receivers in the draft available for us to take, or we will take a safety to eventually, and hopefully sooner than later, but to eventually complement Harrison Smith. And I guess the other thing I'd like to see in free agency, is just a mid-level veteran like a Terrence Newman, but not Terrence Newman at defensive back. We definitely need more depth and more veteran depth back there. We can't constantly be relying on first, second, and third-year guys who aren't developed as players, to be providing everything in our secondary. So that might be an area of need that we address at some point in time going forward yet, too. All right, well, that's it for Vikings Balls on Fire. And we'll call that the actual on fire part. There, we put out Balls on Fire. But we're going to keep talking NFL free agency and trades, as well as the Peyton Manning retirement. Or maybe we'll save that for the end of the show. I'm not sure. But we do have more football to discuss yet before we go into baseball, hockey, basketball, and some UFC. Maybe a little bit of tennis. I don't know. See what we got time for. I'm already... Yeah, I'm not keeping a good pace anymore. So much for that. But anyway, so we'll keep it in free agency, and like I said, we'll just try to rip off new names and their new teams as much as as fast and as numerous as possible. We'll start with, I think, one of the biggest talkers, not necessarily the biggest name, but one of the biggest talkers, and that being former Denver Broncos backup quarterback and part-time starter this year, Brock Osweiler, did not re-sign with the Denver Broncos after Peyton Manning announced his retirement. Boy, I bet the Broncos might be wishing that Peyton... Wow. Ooh. There we go. That's juicy. You heard it here first. Maybe. Or at least I heard it here first. Watch for the Broncos to try and talk Peyton Manning out of retirement and play his last final season remaining on his contract. Names I've heard of the Broncos going after now, the 3 names I've heard are Colin Kaepernick, Robert Griffin III, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yikes. You're not going back to the Super Bowl with any of those frickin' clowns. Are you kidding me? Good luck with that. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick would is not only by far the best quarterback out of that group, but would be the best fit, for what I would think their team is looking for. But they were definitely planning on Brock Osweiler re-signing and being, they drafted him to be the heir, and now his time came. And, well, Houston Texans were so desperate for a quarterback that they offered way more money than anybody should. And Brock Osweiler signed a 4-year, $72 million contract to be the Houston Texans' new starting quarterback. This guy has not even started one full season's worth of games in his entire NFL career. And when he did, he rarely, if ever, lit up a scoreboard, with his personal statistics. So just, man, Texans super desperate. They did go out and make a nice signing. And it might work out for him. Brock Osweiler's a huge guy, throws a great deep ball, and they got DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best deep threats in the league. So it might work out. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying it's a really big gamble on part of the Houston Texans. But good for Brock Osweiler, But then the Houston Texans signed their replacement for former running back Arian Foster, who was let go as well, and they replaced him with Miami Dolphins former running back Lamar Miller, who I'm not a fan of the Dolphins letting this guy go. He's fairly young. He's just started to come into his own the last 2 years and look like a really good, legitimate number one NFL starting running back, and then they let him go. Like, I don't get it. But they're doing a lot of moves, and outside of that move, they are very much, one of the big winners here so far in the off season. But we'll get to that in just a little bit when we're talking trades more. Now, in a related note, the running back that Miami signed to help replace Lamar Miller is former Denver Broncos running back C.J. Anderson. They signed him to an $18 million deal. Not sure how many years that was for. And I think I'll just rattle off a bunch of names and teams here to try and get through all this best we can. Going to the Bengals, they lost both their second and third receivers, Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu. Marvin Jones is going to Detroit Lions, so we'll be seeing him twice a year. And he will have the daunting task of trying to replace Calvin Megatron Johnson as their number one wide receiver. I want to say they gave him 5 years, $40 million. That's a waste of money. Good, back to Detroit being Detroit. And then Sanu ended up going to the Falcons, basically to replace Roddy White, and be the number two opposite Julio Jones there. So definitely expect the Bengals to be looking wide receiver in the first or second round of this year's draft to find someone new to play opposite of A.J. Green. Some other notable names: Nick Perry will be staying in Green Bay, at least for one more year. The Seahawks will be keeping Jermaine Kearse, at least temporarily, 3-year deal. Defensive back Jeremy Lane will be staying with the Legion of Boom in Seattle. Adrian Claiborne, defensive player, drafted just a couple years ago out of Iowa, I want to say, defensive lineman. He will be staying in Atlanta. Victor Cruz agrees to a reduced salary to stay with the Giants. Derek Johnson, linebacker stud, will be staying in Kansas City. Adam Pac-Man Jones, who the Vikings were even considering bringing on, and I would have been all for it, he chose to re-sign with the Bengals. Tight end Coby Fleener out of Stanford, formerly, he's played his college and pro career with Andrew Luck as quarterback in Indianapolis. He will be going to the New Orleans Saints, getting $36 million. Wow, that's a big, ugly contract for the Saints. He's not worth that kind of money. Mitchell Schwartz, excellent lineman, finalizing a 5-year deal with the Chiefs. Defensive tackle Brandon McBain leaving Seattle and going to San Diego. Here's a huge freaking signing, money-wise, that I don't even know if I know who this player is. Olivier Vernon, some defensive end, gets a huge 5-year, $80-some million contract to go play for the New York Giants. I want to say maybe he was a Tennessee Titan or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that, though. They also re-signed JPP. You down with JPP? Yeah, you know me. Actually, I'm not really. That guy's a moron. He's the dude who blew off his fingers on the 4th of July with fireworks, if you remember that. Lost one of them, as a matter of fact. He re-signed a 1-year deal for $11 million to stay with the Giants as well. Matt Castle, former Viking, is Tennessee bound. He'll be playing for the Titans, trying to win a backup role, competing with Zach Mettenberger to back up Mariota. Yeah, good luck with that, Castle. Tyvon Branch, safety, headed to Arizona. Did they need freaking safety help there? Okay. Danny Trevathan, linebacker for the Super Bowl champion Broncos, he's heading to the Bears, and that's not really going to make much any difference helping them out at all. Wouldn't worry about that, Vikings Nation. What else we got? Rams signed safety Mark Berrien to a fairly big deal. Who else we got? Halati Nada re-signs to stay in Detroit. And here's a huge one for us NFC North fans. Matt Forte, Chicago Bear running back, will no longer be in the Bears, and he's not going to the Packers as rumored either. He is going out east to the AFC, where he will be the new feature running back for the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. I love that move for Matt Forte. I love that move for the Jets. And, he's a top 10 back next year, fantasy, just so you know, long as he's healthy. Doug Martin had a great bounce back year. big surprise, it was a contract year, and this was finally the year he bounced back to rookie form. He signed a 5-year, $35 million deal to stay in Tampa Bay. I like that. Alex Mack, perennial Pro Bowl center, offensive lineman for the Cleveland Browns.